I want you to imagine yourself riding a bicycle. Now, it may have been a while since you've ridden a bicycle, a year, 10 years, whatever, but just picture this with me for a second. If you're going slow, and I'm talking at a crawling speed, maybe you're approaching a stop, it takes everything in you. You're focused down on the tires, you're doing everything you can to balance to the best of your abilities and try not to fall. But once you're up and running and you're moving and it's fluid and you've got that flow, it becomes fairly effortless and you're able to look around and enjoy the ride and take in the scenery that's happening around you. Now, when it comes to transformation, I want you to think that same thing. If, for instance, money is an issue and you're in this place of scarcity and all you can do right now is focus on the next paycheck or the little bit that's coming in next in order to keep yourself afloat, well then, yeah, you're going to be looking down at the tire. You're going to be trying to keep yourself from tipping over. The last thing you're going to be able to do is focus on these other aspects, the other people that may be on the bike ride around you that you'd love to be able to enjoy, or the physical aspect that you're getting healthier by doing so and taking in the scenery. And that's why I decided to bring today's guest on the show. His name is Michael G. Isom. And he's written an amazing book, co-authored an amazing book. We're going to share that in the show. But he shares this incredible concept of number one asset, number one investment, and number one strategy. Because no matter where you're at in your transformational journey right now, whether you're trying to improve your relationship, lose weight, get in shape, or just simply take your business to the next level, finances do matter and they do play a role. And we want to be able to shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset so we can actually create this center and peace within ourselves so we can move forward. Michael G. Isom is going to not only talk about that, share his amazing book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? He's also going to share how his morning routine has been a solid foundation for getting him the results in his life and so many of his clients over the years. This is a great show. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, Michael, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so you've got a fascinating story that I do want to hit first before we dive into all your brilliant insights for sure. So please enlighten us. Share your story.
Yeah, I appreciate it. First of all, I'm 47, been married over 25 years to my wife, Wendy. We have two kids, Kennedy and Caden. They're both out of the house now. And it's an interesting time for Wendy and I because we're now empty nesters. But if you go back 25 plus years when we met, 27 years or so ago, I was going to college. I was 22 years old. We got engaged to be married. When I was 22, I was just a baby, Joseph, man, just young. And my wife was 19, man. Our daughter's 23 today. I'm like, no, you need to wait a few more years. But
it worked out, man. And I got you beat, though. I got married at 20 and my wife was 22. So I feel you.
Yeah. Right, and back then we thought we could take on the world. That's so how we felt. It's like we can do anything. So anyway, Wendy said yes when I gave her the engagement ring, and just out there at the public, so everybody knows this up front before you hear the rest of my story. I was making $8.50 an hour when she said yes to me. I was a starving college student. She said yes. Let's do this. Let's go. I love you. It was then about 30 to 45 days later that I responded to an ad to sell cell phones, August of 1993. And if you remember back then, the phones were these big brick phones. At least I can remember this. And I thought this would be a great part-time job to do while I'm going to college. My first 30 days before college started back up in September, so August of 1993, I sold cell phones, brand new company here in Southern Utah, and I made $20,000 in 30 days. $20,000. I hadn't made 20 grand in a year, let alone 30 days. And I was a W-2 employee. I got my check. They took out all the taxes. I was living with my mom. $13,500 net out of 20 grand, okay? So I had this experience of making this kind of money at an early age, and I kept selling cell phones. We got married December of 1993, and from August of 1993 through 1999, Joseph, I did not make less than 20 grand a month.
Amazing.
A month, right? At this young age. And immediately I went from eating top ramen noodles, just getting by at college, to getting married, buying new automobiles, buying a new house. My wife and I had this small house built. I remember it was 1,100 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, fenced in backyard. We kept it as a rental. It was $72,000 the end of 93 into 1994. We kept it as a rental, built another one, did all this real estate stuff. Anyway, that experience of making money at such a young age exposed me to all sorts of things financially in my life. My father-in-law got me involved in some spec homes with him. I invested in a convenience store in Las Vegas, of all places, through a friend, and just all sorts of stuff. I made a lot of money. I lost a lot of money. I learned a ton. And during the 90s was the whole dot-com era where you could just throw money at the stock market anywhere and it would go up. And I thought the solution to money and finances at that time was the stock market. So I left the cell phone industry and I wanted to get into the financial services industry. So I went and started interviewing at Merrill Lynch. One of my high school buddies worked for Merrill Lynch. I'll never forget one of the interviews. I had to take my tie off and sell it to this guy as part of the interview. It was so uncomfortable, but it was fun and it was a challenge and I enjoyed it. And anyway, I'm a high fact finder. My research led me to studying macroeconomics, microeconomics, what's true and what's not true about money, finances, the agenda of big financial institutions, just like the agenda of big pharmacies, right? And their agenda, they're so billions of dollars in marketing. Same with financial institutions. And it got me to where I'm at today. It's been a roller coaster ride. I've learned a ton. And I had an experience at the end of 2007 that led me to writing the book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? I know we may touch on that a little bit. But I've been in the industry now for almost 20 years, and it's extremely rewarding. As you know, Joseph, you're a client of mine. You've been working with me for a few years. Money's very emotional. It's an emotional thing that we have opinions about, and we get those opinions from our parents or an experience that we had at a young age, and we can carry that throughout our entire life, this paradigm, this belief system about I'm either worthy to have money or I'm not worthy to have money, or I attract money or I don't, or I believe in myself and I'm confident and I can make money, or I can hold on to money, or I can invest money, or I can save money. Like there's this whole gamut around it. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of my backstory. I'm not sure what more you want to hear, or personally, professionally, or anything along those lines.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I think it's just good for people to kind of hear just the multitude of things that you definitely have been involved in, and why you've got such a deep understanding and appreciation for the process. And I think that the correlation that so many listeners are going to have is just the fact that the belief system about money is similar to the belief system about weight loss or the belief system about relationships. And I'd love for you to go into your concept that I took so much away from, where you talk about the philosophy of being your number one asset, because that's where it truly seemed to sink home. Because I think for so many people that are struggling with weight or struggling in any one of these areas to prioritize themselves, ultimately, it comes from a place of that limiting belief or just scarcity. And that's like why I definitely wanted you on the show, just because it's so easy to go into scarcity about money or scarcity about food or scarcity about our relationships. So if you could just, kind of open up and expand on that, the number one asset concept, I think that's brilliant and much needed.
Totally. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. And again, this clarity came to me from my own life experiences and getting clear on it myself. So I didn't have to keep building and then burning and building and then burning, because, being in my mid 40s, I don't know how many more build and burns I've got left in my life, mentally, let alone physically, spiritually, emotionally, or financially in my life. And so I'm very clear about this. I'm passionate about it, why I rebranded our company several years ago to Vault AIS. AIS is the number one asset that Joseph is talking about. The I in AIS is number one investment, and the S is number one strategy. So number one asset. The easiest, quickest way for me to sum that up, and then I'll go into a little bit more depth on it, is when you're on an airplane and they talk about the oxygen mask, what do they teach us, Joseph, about the oxygen mask?
Put it on first. Put
it on first before assisting someone else.
Yep.
Right? And we hear this in lots of different ways, but it truly is the most efficient and empowering way for us to live, is when we take care of ourselves, we have more to offer to those around us. when we invest in ourselves, when we increase our own personal stock value, if you will, investing in ourselves, taking care of ourselves, learning, growing, exercising, meditating, just all the different habits that we can take on, we pour into ourselves, we become more valuable, and we're able to assist more, we're able to serve more, we're able to be more focused and create and produce. So we're fulfilled the most, and we can create the most for those around us when we are clear that we are the number one asset. So I first have a conversation. People are surprised sometimes they're not if they're referred and they've read some of my stuff, but they're surprised that I'm going to have a conversation with them first about their human life value assets, their mental capital, their state of mind, their assets that's allowed them to get to where they're at, which is their ability to produce and to think and to act and to do. It's their experiences, it's their education, it's their morals, it's their values. It's not a stock or a bond or a mutual fund or something like that is the number one asset. It's the individual themselves. So we're very clear here at Vault AIS. I'm clear, you're clear, your listeners are gaining this clarity that people are the assets, things are not. And so if we want to increase our property value assets, we're first going to increase our human life value, our assets individually, internally, and then take those and leverage them in the marketplace.
Yeah, so well said, man. And I love the concept is taking care of yourself first, so you can take care of those other things. And I think the key thing there is that investing in the right piece. You know, it's so easy probably in the financial market to want to just talk numbers and where to go and where to put the money in. Just like in the fitness and nutrition space, it's easy to want to talk, programming and exercise science and immediately into which nutrition protocol, but you're kind of going, all right, well, where are you at mentally and emotionally to be able to even handle all of this first? And it sounds like you take the same approach, which I think is just so key. So I definitely want to know, because you talked about the daily habits of, working out and meditation. What is kind of your daily practice look like that then puts you in this position to be able to produce at this level on a consistent basis?
Yeah, I'm clear. I've tested this several different times in my life, and I've now surrendered to it, that I must wake up daily and create the environment conducive to the results that I want to have. So if I'm clear about the results that I want to have, the targets that I'm going after, then I can back into them of, okay, what do I got to do on a daily basis to get to that? Well, every morning when I wake up, I drink a glass of water, I have some bulletproof coffee, and I go sweat. Mondays and Wednesdays, I typically go with my wife, with her trainer. We travel across town, we work out together, we spend that time together. If I don't go with her, I'm going to my gym down the street. I personally like to go to a gym. There's other people working out. I go first thing in the morning around 5:30 in the morning. And if you go to the gym or a gym that time of the morning, there's typically people there that they're going somewhere. They're moving, they're getting up, they have purpose, they're purpose driven, there's stuff going on in their life. So I go there and I feel that energy, but I give that energy off also. So I give it away and I receive it at the same time. And I want to sweat. I've gone through phases of my life of heavy lifting and years of CrossFit. And so I do a mixture of all of that, but I want to sweat. I want to exhaust myself. I do weight training. I do circuit stuff. I do spin classes. And that happens almost every day of the week. The occasional Sunday morning, I'm not hitting it, but if I do, if I don't go to a gym, I'm going on a walk with my wife. I'm doing something. And so I'll sweat, I'll come home, I'll drink my greens. I have some doTERRA powder greens that I like to have. And again, it's whatever works for you or whatever puts you into power, but this is what works for me. And then I eat. I have a nice healthy breakfast that I prepare. And while I'm eating, I write. You can see here 2 journal entries from the last 2 days. And I write specifically what I celebrate and what I appreciate. Many of you have maybe heard this as a gratitude journal. Love that. Used that for years. You can start out with gratitude journal, what you're grateful for. That for me then transitioned into the words, and it's basically the same thing, but what I celebrate in my life, what I appreciate in my life. Sometimes it's one big long run-on sentence. Sometimes it's a full page. It just depends on what's going on. I write about personal, professional, individual, all sorts of stuff that's going on in my life. And for me, that sets the tone for the day. I'm also committed to reading something in my area of expertise, 10 minutes, some 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Sometimes it goes 20, 30 minutes, depending on my day. And then I make a post about it. I'll either journal, Facebook, Instagram, email to clients, some way to pass that on for someone else to benefit from. But when I do that, it reinforces it more within myself. And that's my daily habit. I learned it. There's many different ways. Hal Elrod, The Morning Miracle, taught me that at first. Garrett Gunderson, Garrett White with Wake Up Warrior, does Core 4. And it's what I do to set the environment to get the results that I want, to put myself in power.
Love it, man. I absolutely love it. And it completely makes sense. I mean, you're hitting on what I call the daily dose of brain chemicals that we need to fight cortisol. You're getting dopamine, you're getting oxytocin, you're getting serotonin, you're getting endorphins. Like, you're literally checking the box on kind of all four things that we need to safeguard ourselves, like bumper lanes, so that we can go bowl. Hey, we may hit a strike that day, we may hit one pin, but you're doing it that way. It sounds like you're going to hit some pins and keep casting those votes for yourself. So brilliant concept and great share. And I'm sure people are going to be taking away something that they can instantly put into their life from one of those pieces for sure. So love
That's
that.
something I want to add to it, Joseph.
Yeah.
I do all of that out of self-interest, kind of like the oxygen mask theory mindset. I do it out of self-interest, not out of selfishness, but out of self-interest, knowing that if I'm in power, if I'm focused, if I'm not as stressed out, I have more to offer to those around me. So it's out of self-interest because it fulfills me, but that fulfillment I then leverage to create for those around me at an even higher level.
It's so good. And so, like, with that, I mean, it's so easy for us when we get really busy, especially those that have maybe little kids at the time. You're grown and doing well, but you've been doing this a long time. So I'm sure you have some insights. How do you get to a place where you can truly buy into the belief that it's from self-interest and not kind of have these waning, like, this sense of guilt that you're doing it? Is it just over time that you've mastered this, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. And what comes to my mind when I hear you ask that question is the results. And another thought process that I use, I don't think as much about right and wrong as much as I do about what's working and what's not working. And are things that I'm doing in my life moving me closer to happiness or further away? And so I loved the analogy or the mindset that someone shared with me a number of years ago. If we do have a young family and there's just a bazillion things, I know there's always a lot of stuff going on, but when you have younger kids, it just seems like there's just so much more demand put on our time. I think there's always demands on our time, right? I'm not saying there's not, but when kids are younger, it seems like there's more. And so the simplest form of the game, meaning there were times where I'd work out at home. I would do 50 push-ups, sit-ups, air squats. So if I'm traveling in a hotel, if I'm something, I'm going to do something to move my body. I may not get the sweat that I want or the environment that I want perfectly, but I'm going to do something. I'm going to swing. I'm going to hit a single. I'm going to hit a single. As long as I wake up and hit a single, and then if I do miss a day, I'm not going to beat the crap out of myself over it. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to extract the lesson from it, and I'm going to move on. And so that's helped me the most, is not beat myself up, simplest form of the game, do something. And then, I believe that we are all 100% disciplined to our existing set of habits.
Yeah, so well said.
And so just make it a new habit. Don't get rid of habits, make new ones, and then it'll eventually push out those other habits that are not working.
Cool, man. Yeah, that helps answer that a lot. It's basically what I'm taking away is don't break the chain. Do whatever you can possible to not break the chain, even if it's decreasing it to its minimal dose. And that may mean decreasing the threat to the minimal dose of just, well, to not break the chain, it's only going to be 50 push-ups. That doesn't sound that threatening when you're used to, an hour and a half long workout. 50 may sound like a lot to someone, so maybe it's just 5, and it's wherever they're at. And then if you do break the chain, no shame, no guilt, just start rebuilding it tomorrow as quickly as you possibly can. So I appreciate that a lot. So I want to change gears here off of that, because we took away so much from that. I want to dive back into some of the really good stuff that you can just go on and on about and share so much and really help people. So what would you say is really the biggest impact you've seen from helping thousands of people with gaining financial security? Like, what's been the biggest impact with all of that for people?
The peace of mind. It's this knowing versus hoping that what they're currently doing with their money is the most efficient thing that they can do. We define financial freedom as money never becomes a primary reason or excuse for doing or not doing something. So if it's not the primary reason, then we gain clarity on what we really want. Because when I hear people say, I can't afford that, what I hear them saying is, I don't want that, right? Joseph, you and I, anyone else listening to this, when we've been clear about what we really want and why we want it, game over. We go after it, we make it happen, we attack it, we're aggressive. And so it's a clarity of, number one, where am I? Number two, where do I want to go? Okay, I'm going to gain clarity on where I'm at, and that clarity of where we're at, like where are we at with our body? Where are we at with our finances? Like, just strip away all the stories. What are the facts around where I'm at? That alone is so empowering. And I love, the deeper I can go with a client, the better for me, because that emotional connection that I can make and feel, and that they can feel, they can take that into their life and have that empowerment in every area of their life. So it's that connection. It's about the light bulb going off. It's about giving someone hope around money and finances. There's so much confusion. There's so much chaos. There's so much misinformation out there, so much complexity when it comes to finances. What do I do? How do I do it? And so then they end up not doing anything at all. So the simplicity of our message, the simplicity of the process, and then clients actually taking action on that. And then as the years go by, seeing how that has affected their life is huge. It's a huge payoff for me. It's a huge payoff for our clients, and it's working.
Very cool, man. Very cool. So you talked about the simplicity of things and giving them hope and all that stuff. So I definitely want to touch on this. You wrote a New York Times bestseller, with a New York Times bestseller.
With a New York Times bestseller.
Yes. But still, incredible book that I read a few years back and still sits in my forefront. It's time to break it out and do a reread. Love doing that with good books like this. And it's called What Would the Rockefellers Do? How the Wealthy Get and Stay That Way, and How You Can Too. So fill us in, like what inspired the book and what are the key takeaways they can get from it, and then where can they pick it up?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Well, first of all, you can get the book at whatwouldtherockefellersdo.com. And I hadn't thought about this until now, but if you'll go to vaultais.com, scroll to the bottom of the homepage, take our 10-minute assessment. You're going to put your email address in there and your name. We're going to market to you. You can always opt out of our marketing. But if you'll go in and you'll put Joseph on there as who referred you from this podcast, then we'll mail you a book. We'll mail you a copy of our book, and we'll get that in your hands. But what inspired the book for Garrett Gunderson and I, Garrett Gunderson did write a New York Times bestseller called Killing Sacred Cows. Fantastic book. That was back in 2009. Garrett and I were original business partners from 2000 until today. We've done a lot of business together. We had two original partners, Ray and Les, that died in a tragic plane crash back in 2006. It was just horrific, man. Both their wives were pregnant. The pilot, Dwayne Pugmire, his wife was pregnant. 13 kids between the three families. And so Garrett Gunderson and I, we've lived through a lot together. We've built our businesses up together. We've learned from each other. We still market with each other and do business together today. But we came together to write this book, and it's What Would the Rockefellers Do? because when you think about the Rockefellers, at least for us, we think about legacy. We think about generational planning. And it's empowering for a man, for a husband, for an individual to think about passing something on to someone else. And so, yes, it's about having this self-interest to take care of ourselves, but it's also about sharing with others so it can live on for future generations. And money and finance play such a major role, and there's ways for us to take what the wealthy do with their money. They think legacy, they plan generational legacy, and they control their wealth, their money decisions for future money decisions they're going to make anyway, to be their own bank. They pay themselves the interest versus paying a financial institution. You can do this at a lower level, you can do it at a high level, you can do it everywhere in between. So this book is about empowering an individual that whether you have the billions of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, you can create generational wealth, you can control your wealth, you can be your own bank with your own money. And we go through a step-by-step process in the book of empowering an individual on these concepts and how they can implement it in their life.
Yeah, super awesome, man. And appreciate you sharing the link that they can go grab that. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, and so like as someone's trying to figure out where they're starting from and where to go, because kind of like we talked about earlier, you know, we know where stuff's at with we just need the clarity on it. We know where our body's at, whether we jump on the scale or not, whether we, you know, pick up a weight or not, and whether we actually peel back the curtains and look at our finances more than just a glance as if there's enough in there or not. So what would you recommend someone does when just first getting started? Like what should be the best first step for someone?
Yeah, that's why we created that assessment that I talked about. So if you'll go to vaultais.com, scroll to the bottom, I put a lot of time and energy into 10 areas of our life financially: taxes and debt and insurances and investments and assets and strategy, and 10 different areas of our life where you can quickly assess through a number system and reading these paragraphs to see where you fit in, and they get a compilation, a total at the end of where you're at financially to assess where am I at in these 10 key areas of my life. Do that first, assess where you're at, and if you see where you're at and then get an idea of where you want to go, the assessment will assist you on where you want to go also. That's the first step for anyone to take.
Beautiful. Made it nice and simple so that someone doesn't have to spend all their time researching a bunch of things. They can just see exactly what is needed and off and track. I think that's what we need in so many areas. So this is great.
Awesome.
All right, man. So I want to hit some rapid fire questions. I just think it's kind of fun. So first one, other than your book, what book recommendation do you have for everyone to read right now?
Other than What Would the Rockefellers Do by Michael Isom and Garrett Gunderson. I'm reading a lot of Dan Sullivan right now from Strategic Coach. You can go to strategiccoach.com, Dan Sullivan. Joseph, are you familiar with Dan Sullivan?
Yeah.
Love his stuff, love his work, love his intellectual property, the way he thinks. He's in his mid-70s. He produces and has a mindset of I'm more valuable today than ever before. He's writing a small book every quarter right now.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so the timeless one, and I'm looking over here on my shelf behind the computer, I have it on cassette.
Nice.
And a little folder, right? So you can see how long I've had this one. But you can just download it now at strategiccoach.com. But it's called Learning How to Avoid the Gap. And it's about learning to celebrate and appreciate along the way in our life instead of waiting until some, years and years down the road type of thing. And the momentum that we create by celebrating and appreciating along the way produces more in our life. So anything by Dan Sullivan, specifically Learning How to Avoid the Gap, is awesome.
Beautiful. Good stuff, man. All right. Toughest workout you've ever done?
Well, I'm going to put the CrossFit workout Murph up there.
Yeah.
With the weighted vest. Yep. The pull-ups, push-ups, air squats, and running. But the toughest one I've ever done, besides my experiences at Wake Up Warrior during a Warrior Week, would be a century bike race that I did here in southern Utah. And there were hellacious winds, headwinds, where I'm on a flat road going 8 miles an hour. Besides the hills I had to climb, that was the toughest workout ever.
Dang. Yeah. So for those that may not know, if you're on a bike, like a minimum speed for some of these guys is going to be like 15, 16 miles per hour, usually at least hitting 20. So to take on that much and then be grinding at 8 plus hills, that says volumes with just that number there. So
yeah, it was a long day, man.
I thought you were going to say something about racing, because people don't realize how much racing beats up your body. But yeah, that's cool.
Yep. Toughest. That's the toughest. Yeah.
Yep. Cool, man. All right. So out of all the daily habits, because I know you've got a multitude of practices and you shared some of those, and thank you again for that. But what would you say is your favorite one? Like, out of all of them, the one you really look forward to, or the one you take the most away from that just has to be on there no matter what?
Yeah. It's a toss-up between my workouts and my writing what I celebrate and appreciate. I'm going to go with my writing of what I celebrate and appreciate. I love sweating, love my workouts, but taking just 5 minutes to write down what I celebrate and what I appreciate on a daily basis is my most powerful one.
Love it. And I can hear it too. I mean, you've used the words celebrate and appreciate probably 4 or 5 times, and it's proof that it is 100% solidified as a way that you operate and what you believe. And as we know, words matter and repetition matters. And yeah, there's some studies showing 90 days of just consistent everyday gratitude, or in your case, a higher level of appreciation and celebration, can raise your general overall functioning happiness by almost 10%. So you're, living proof. You've been doing this for way beyond 90 days. So that's awesome, man. So
definitely. And pen and paper, actually writing it, pen and paper. Yeah.
I hear you. I'm the same way. Way. We're too tied to tech. We got to let it bleed out the hand.
There you go.
All right, man. So before I ask my last question, where can people find you? I know you mentioned the website and the book, but other than that, social media or anything you want to plug so that they can reach out and as needed?
Yeah. Thanks, man. vaultais.com. We're on Facebook and our website. We do a weekly live show of what's going on, and we apply it to AIS, number one asset, number one investment, number one strategy. And we blast that on Facebook at Vault AIS, and then also we have it on our blog at vaultais.com. And Joseph did mention this, and because I have a big race coming up, I am an off-road racer. I do have sponsors now, factory sponsorship, and our race team is Mobbin, Mobbin, Mobbin Racing, and we do a race documentary for each one of our races, and we put that up on Facebook. So if you're into that or you want to check out any of that, and I'm always putting lessons and things into it too, but Mobbin Racing is a lot of fun, and I'm clear about what I'm passionate about, what fulfills me, and we have a whole team, bunch of people we bring into that, so it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, no, and it's fun for a viewer too. I can actually, I'm just going to full on blame you. I'm not even going to take responsibility for this. I'm scrolling social media. This is a while ago. I see this video, and it's like him and his crew, and it's such a professionally well done video. And then I'm like reading insights and like deep lessons and appreciation for the fact that like the axle broke and they didn't have a tire and they had to borrow one from another crew. And I'm like sucked in, and I'm like, then I look at the clock and I'm like, I think I just spent 45 minutes like going to, because then it's just the rabbit hole, and I'm like, so awesome. So no blame.
I'll own that. Take responsibility. You're welcome.
Yeah, you can tell I watched, right? Because this is a while ago, but I remember all of this to detail.
Yeah.
So, cool, man. Last question. What do you believe is the truth that it takes for someone to completely transform?
The truth to completely transform. It takes a ruthless commitment. It takes a deep burning why behind any target that we go after, anything that we want to transform. If we can tie it, if I look back at the results in my life, Joseph, I've always tied it back to a deep burning desire of why I want it. So a deep burning desire and then a ruthless commitment. Once I know what I want, why I want it, and then I commit to it, game over.
Big three. I love it, man. Ruthlessly committed. And I can hear the conviction in your voice. So love it. Great shares, great insights, and I'm glad viewers can take away a lot from this and do some research and get some excellent resources from you as well along the way. So I appreciate you coming on the show, Michael.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. It's my pleasure.
All right, my friends, thanks again for listening. And I loved that episode because not many people are talking about these things, especially when you're thinking about health and fitness. And we don't realize how important it is to create balance in all areas of our life. And I call it the form. Because your form matters. If you want to lift weights heavier, if you want to improve your ability to work out greater, your form is what matters most. And that form stands for family, occupation, recreation, and mindset. And really, those are the 4 pinnacles, the 4 areas of life that we have to embody some balance to the best of our abilities. And let me remind you, my friend, the truth of transformation, you can't spell transformation without form. So all those things matter, which is why I wanted to bring Michael G. Isom on the show to share those insights. Now, last thing, I just want to share some gratitude. I am so thankful for the 5-star reviews, the comments that you guys keep showering the show with. I know that does a great deal to help the show pass along to others who are in that place of need, ready to make a shift, ready to make a change. I love getting tagged by so many of you on social media who have loved a certain episode. You want more of that specific type of guest or that type of story. So that's helping me. So if you need to do that, screenshot the show and do that, tag me on there. But I love just hearing these stories of how it was the right message for the right person at the right time. So it's a beautiful thing. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. So as always, my friends, Coach Joseph Hawthorne, peace be the journey.